Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, welcome to another class of Introduction to Logic and Critical Thinking. Dear students, since we are moving to the conclusion of this course, let us first discuss about traditional subject predicate prepositions as they hold an important place in the domain of logic. Traditional subject predicate prepositions are the classical forms of the statements that are used in categorical logic, where each preposition links a subject term to a predicate term through a bridge word, that is or are. Now, these prepositions express relationships between classes or categories and come in four standard forms such as A, E, I, and O prepositions. An A proposition affirms universally, such as all dogs are mammals, which claims that the entire class of dogs is included within the class of the mammals. An E proposition denies universality, as in E, for example, we can state an example of E proposition that no birds are reptiles, excluding one class entirely from another class. An I proposition affirms partiality, that is, for example, some students are athletes, indicating at least one member of the student class belongs to the athlete class as well. And lastly, NO proposition denies partiality. That is, we can have an example like some cars are not electric, indicating that at least one member of the class of the cars falls outside the class of the electric vehicles. Now, these four forms basically allow us to classify statements precisely and analyze their logical behavior, such as their distribution of the terms, their quality that may be either affirmative or negative, and their quantity that can be either universal or particular. Now, by standardizing statements into these forms, traditional logic provides a foundation for building valid categorical arguments. Dear students, proving validity involves demonstrating that an argument's conclusion must be true if the premises are true, meaning it is impossible for the premises to be true and conclusion to be false at the same time. In traditional logic, this is often done through formal methods such as syllogistic rules, Venn diagrams, or identifying valid argument forms. For example, if we have the classic syllogism like all mammals are warm blooded and all dogs are mammals, then the conclusion will be that all dogs are warm blooded. Why? Because it follows the rule of necessity. In the Venn diagram approach, we shade the regions that represent the information given by the premises. If the conclusion is automatically represented by that shading, the argument is considered to be valid. We will discuss in the whiteboard session of the class. Another way to prove validity is by converting the argument into a standard form and checking whether it matches one of the known valid syllogistic patterns, such as the patterns that we discussed in the previous lectures like Barbara and Dari. The key point in proving the validity is that we do not ask whether the premises are actually true in real life. What we do is that we simply check whether the reasoning structure guarantees the truth or conclusion if the premises are accepted as true. Now, proving invalidity, on the other hand, requires showing that an argument's premises could be true while the conclusion could still be false, meaning that the argument does not guarantee its conclusion. This can be demonstrated by constructing a counterexample, a situation where the premises hold but the conclusion fails. For example, consider the argument that some athletes are tall, some tall people are musicians, therefore, some athletes are musicians. Although the premises might both be true, it is possible that tall athletes and tall musicians are completely different people, meaning the conclusion does not necessarily follow. In Venn diagrams that we will draw shortly in our Zoom class, an argument is invalid when the diagram created by the premises does not force the conclusion's region to be shaded or marked. Another way to show invalidity is to compare the argument's form with the list of recognized fallacious or improper syllogistic patterns, such as those committing the fallacy of undistributed middle or illicit major. Now, by proving invalidity, proving invalidity is just as critical, as important as proving validity, because it helps us to avoid persuasive but logically weak arguments that may appear convincing but structurally they are flawed. A syllogistic inference refers to forms of reasoning that do not fit into the traditional three-part syllogistic structure but still function as logical inferences. These inferences typically involve immediate reasoning from a single proposition rather than two premises. Examples include processes that we have discussed in the previous lectures, such as conversion, obversion, and contraposition. Let me give you a quick recap. Conversion involves the switching the subject and the predicate terms of a proposition. For instance, converting no dogs are reptiles into no reptiles are dogs, which preserves the E form's truth. Obversion involves changing the quality of a statement from affirmative to negative or vice versa, and then replacing the predicate with its complement class. For example, all cats are mammals becomes no cats are non-mammals. Contraposition basically switches the subject and predicate and replaces both with their complements, such as turning all roses are flowers into all non-flowers are non-roses. Now, these techniques allow us to draw new logically equivalent statements from existing ones without needing a full syllogism. A syllogistic inference expands our logical toolbox actually by showing that the valid reasoning can occur even when arguments are not structured in classic syllogistic form. I hope this quick recap of the different different categorical propositions, that is A, E, I, O, will be able to be memorized by you. And in the class, we will be able to draw Venn diagrams out of these 4 categorical propositions. Thank you so much.